Hey friends, you've got Renee here at Mold Mending. I want to chat with you about stress. That trauma causes stress, mold trauma, medical trauma, even abuse trauma. All of those traumas, they cause stress. And they also cause a lingering stress even after the fact of those events being done that caused the trauma. And this came to mind today because of a dream that I had, but I'll talk about that dream in a little bit. I decided to journal some things that I realized from this dream and just wanted to share it with you, okay? Maybe it'll help you. Maybe it's something that you're also working through. So trauma not only causes the stress, but it also sabotages your peace. That stress sabotages your peace. And it even sabotages your rest and even your sleep. Previously, I realized that I had this stress, but I didn't call it that. I just noticed I had this busy mind. And that even at nighttime, I just couldn't turn it off. And at first I thought it was just full of ideas. And yes, that's my personality. I have a lot of ideas. But I was finding that once I was letting my body rest and lay in bed, all my concerns were starting to rise. And then that made it difficult for me to even go to sleep because then okay, how do I solve this? How do I solve that? How do I do this? How do I do that? And so I just couldn't turn it off at night. The busyness is what I call it. And so I even mentioned it at one of my specialist doctor appointments. And she's like, well, here's something that you can read about and maybe consider taking. And everything that is suggested to me is natural. But before I started taking a supplement or a medication, I'm like, I still want to figure out how to tackle this without having to do something to put into my body. I want to see if there's a way to figure this out. And I decided the one thing I wasn't doing great at for the situation was prayer. And I thought, I need to take this to God. And believe it or not, it worked because after, I think it was within 6 months, I had gone back to see her, something like that. And she brought it back up. And I'm like, oh, I don't deal with that anymore. She goes, no. So what did you do to fix that? And I said, you're going to think I'm crazy, but it's prayer. That when that stress would come up and that busy, I would pray and ask God to slow it down, turn it off, help me rest. And it worked. Well, then after that, mold struck again. You know how it likes to show up in your house in different places sometimes? It popped up and it became a new trigger. So it also became a new trauma, new mold. Trauma causing stress. That was being a mold trauma causing my stress. And because of my previously working on intentionally stopping stress, I mean, I didn't have it fully solved, but I was intentionally working through when I would notice it, I would pray and ask God to put it in its right place, not to allow me to exaggerate on things. And, because when you're stressed, some things that are like this big that can be managed in pieces. When you're stressed, you start thinking or your emotions get in the way and it becomes something bigger than what it needed to be from the beginning to solve it. But because I was learning an intentionality in my responses to stress and business in my mind, I found that this new mold that was found did not consume me like previously when I would run into mold. Mold found in my laundry room. We had water that had leaked in the back of our wash machine. We tried everything up with the towels, with the sheets, clothing that was nearby, just immediately soaked up all that water. And then we had fans going. So we hit it in less than 30 minutes from when because I was doing a little longer when we noticed it happen. So we were able to meet that within 48 hours, so that mold would not produce, but didn't realize that water could run between the panels of the wall and it would start mold that way. And that's what happened when I stumbled across this, opening up a panel, finding the mold in between the walls. I broke, was my first response. And it was fear, because that was a natural response for me to mold. And typically that fear would, grow big, go from little and grow big. But this time that fear immediately transitioned into anger, because I knew I needed to take care of it, but I was angry because of my illness. I couldn't personally deal with it. I couldn't personally fix the problem myself of tearing down the walls and getting rid of the mold that's on it and doing the full mold remediation. However, in spite of me having the knowledge of how to do it properly and how to do it medically sound, because I have the illness, it is best for those of us that do have it to avoid doing the work of remediation. So I was so angry that I had that limitation more than fear. And I opened my Bible and boom, it took me to this scripture then. Actually, I'm not going to read that scripture just now, but what that scripture did is it gave me truth in place of my emotions that I was going through at that time and where I was at. And it readjusted me. And so I've been going, actually, that was in August, it's now December. I've been going really well until last night. I had this stressful dream, and I noticed when I woke up, it was stressful. So in this dream, we're helping somebody move, and then we end up staying at this retreat center or something, not quite a hotel, but something like that. And I get up early before everybody else to start getting ready for the day. And I go into this bathroom, and immediately I notice something off. Open up the door, and there's this little kid hiding in the corner. I'm like, get out of here. What are you doing hiding in the bathroom? So get him out of the bathroom. And then I look at the sink and there's blood on it. And remember, I talked about some things that are just minor. We can get our emotions in it or stress in it, and we can blow it up to be so big. And that's what I realized I had done in that moment, is I saw this blood from this little kid. Either he was doing something with his nose or he had spit it up, but it's on the sink, and immediately I grabbed one of the towels, because it was a cloth towel, and I start cleaning it up. I'm like, oh man. And then the next thing I know is the sink. The sink has now been overflowing, not overflowing. The sink is filling up and going to the very edge of all of the sink. And now the stress is coming, like, oh my gosh, now these people are going to wake up. Now people are going to see blood all over the place. Now they're going to see this overflowing of the sink. I don't have a plunger. That kind of stress that comes. I don't know if you ever have this or not, but you go out somewhere like a restaurant or whatever, and then a toilet is coming higher and higher, higher, and you're just praying, don't overflow, because they don't have a plunger. And that's what was going on in my dream. Is it was bloody water that was coming all the way to the top. And I'm already feeling this stress, remembering this part of the dream and going, oh my gosh, I not only have to fix this sink, but I'm going to have to go around this whole little retreat building and check all the bathrooms to make sure these little kids didn't leave blood, or that it's not, the plumbing in the other rooms are not overflowing. So I wake up, okay, and I made some little notes here. I woke thinking that, wow, even my dreams can be stressful. And I didn't realize that I was in a stressful place this weekend, but I see that I was. That when I woke from this dream, I realized my immediate reaction was, I need to pray about this, because the stress from my weekend, I had received some gifts that I believe had mold on it, and I'm not able to take them into my house. And that created stress, just going to be honest. And now I'm having this stressful dream and going, okay, Lord, is there something I'm supposed to learn from this? Am I bringing stress into my sleep and I'm sabotaging that as well? And I decided to start praying against, anything that the devil would want to bring against me for my own peace. And then I'm like, all right, Lord, I know unrest is not from you, but I know it is from Satan. And I know he wants to harass and sabotage, but I also see that this could be a way that you're trying to show me, Lord, the unsettled things that are still inside of me. And so I prayed against self-sabotage, because in that dream, I was taking it upon myself to do a janitor's job and to fix things, and then thinking I needed to go to every other bathroom and fix it as well. And instead of asking for help and being in control, I took it upon myself instead of asking for help in the dream and trying to solve things on my own. Anyway, so I saw that I made things more than I should have. I'm just going to read this little part. It was a small area of blood on the corner of a sink, yet I allowed it to mull in my mind longer than I should have. And it kept me from getting ready for the day and the event. I was brewing and stressing over a dirty bathroom, no privacy in that dream. And after waking and praying, I opened my Bible. In a stressful moment, just turned to the exact same thing I did at another time. It's pretty cool how God spoke. And this is what the verses say in this. It says, I will bless the Lord who guides me. Even at night, my heart instructs me. I know the Lord is always with me. I will not be shaken, stressed, for he is right beside me. No wonder my heart is glad and I rejoice. My body rests in safety. For you will not leave my soul among the dead, or allow your Holy One to rot in the grave. You will show me the way of life, granting me the joy of your presence and the pleasures of living with you forever. The notes I had in here from August, from finding the mold in the laundry, it says I broke over the weekend out of fear, but more out of anger because I couldn't solve myself quickly. And then I had underlined, I know the Lord is always with me. I will not be shaken. I wrote the word stressed. So stressed equals shaken in my life, I realize, when it comes around mold and when I have new encounters of it. It does shake me, and I bet it shakes you as well. And previously, it used to consume me, where I couldn't do anything other than think it, process it. How am I going to fix it? How am I going to solve it? Who's, all the, it can just drive you crazy, to where you can't work. You can't function. You forget that you're supposed to be eating. Those are some things I know people deal with. For me, it was just, it just heightened a stress in my life that kept me from being able to concentrate. And it kept me from being able to rest, like I had said before, and my mind would just keep going. But even after that, even great ideas were coming all the time, but I realized it was another layer of, you're just not resting. Your body is just not feeling safe. You're feeling shaken. And by the way, this is Psalm 16, verses 7 to 11. So now I'm at verse 8, verse 9. No wonder my heart is glad and I rejoice. My body rests in safety. And I wrote, I am safe. I'm safe is the truth. When we face mold in our environment, or even when we're out somewhere else, we feel like it feels like an attack upon us. Those of us with this mold illness, we do not feel safe. And so it affects our rest. I know this sounds goofy, but it reminds me of way back when we had this boa constrictor my husband brought home, was given it from somebody who couldn't have it in their house because their wife didn't want it no more. So my husband brought it home to us. Well, I didn't like snakes at the time. Darn thing got out. It got loose, and he claimed it went out the front window or front door, because we'd always leave the door open and let air come in. And I had 2 little boys at the time, and I told Eddie, I'm like, we're not having sleepovers at our house. We are not. There's some activities we're not doing in this house until I'm sure that the snake is not in my house. And then we end up finding it. I find it one day when he's at work, and it's coiled around one of our plants. Mind you, it was there were no teeth in it. It couldn't kill nobody. But in my head, the way I saw snakes, I had so much fear that I wasn't able to rest. And when I found it that day, I couldn't get anybody to take it. And I had to put it back in its cage, put the lock back on. The little sucker even knew how to make the lock open. I didn't want to sleep in that house anymore with this stupid thing. And so my legs were kind of like twitching that night. My feet were, I just couldn't sleep because I knew we had a snake in the house that was a little stinker that knew how to get out of its cage. And I wondered, where is it going to go next? You know? And so my husband got up that day. He took care of it. He got rid of it and got it out of our house. I could not rest until that was taken care of. And that's kind of how mold has been in my life at the beginning of this journey, is like my leg was just twitching until we could solve the situation. But up until August, having read this scripture and beginning to pray through it, I was realizing that I could be safe even in some unsafe situations, such as I can still feel peace, I can still feel safety, even if I do have mold at my door, literally and figuratively. Even if there is mold at the threshold, at the entrance of my door or in my laundry room, I am still safe. I'm not going to be killed. I'm not going to die from it. It is something that can be solved. So it said, verse 9, my body rests in safety. Verse 10, for you will not leave my soul among the dead. I know it sounds goofy, but I had to read that. I wanted to be assured that I wasn't going to die, because when I first dealt with this mold situation, it was killing me. And God was assuring me I wasn't going to be left among the dead. Then it says, or allow your Holy One to rot in the grave. Verse 11, you will show me the way of life. And I wrote down, not consumed by mold. I need to feel life, not threatened, not stressed, not like I'm dying, like I'm in a situation that's unsolvable. Then the rest of verse 11 says, granting me the joy of your presence and the pleasure of living with you forever. And I just wrote, help me to walk in your joy versus stress and weight of mold in my home or wherever I'm facing it and whatever my circumstance I face. There is joy being the presence of God. And God can guide us. Verse 7 says it, I will bless the Lord who guides me. So I am learning that instead of trying to solve things always on my own, I can go to God first and say, Lord, give me guidance on this. And he will give me some directions. He will give me a person to speak into my life. He will give me scripture immediately. There's one of 3 ways typically he'll speak into my life. Or it would be audibly, it'll be this prodding in my spirit of try this, and then ta-da! So just wanted to chat with you today to give you some encouragement that Christ can carry us through this stress, and there are ways that we can walk through it so that we don't let it grow out of proportion in our life and consume us. And there are ways that we can work through it so it doesn't ruin relationships. It doesn't ruin the rest of our day. It doesn't ruin our rest and our peace. I'm still working through some things, but this was one thing I thought I needed to share with you because dealing with medical trauma or mold trauma does bring stress and lingering stress. And that is something we do have to face and recognize. And for me last night, it was through a dream, recognizing that I still have that lingering stress in my life that I need to deal with. And I need to walk through it with the Lord. And I need to recognize it every time it pops up. How am I dealing with it? Am I dealing with it with just emotions and fear and anger? Or am I dealing with it with truth and with logic? So hopefully this was some encouragement to you, and have a good day.